Hey guys, Casual here, and I'm assuming you guys are here because you want to become invincible in all endgame content like you see here. Well, look no further than my invincible overpowered flurry build. This build is built for all endgame content in mind and pushing through them with no care about your character's well-being. With this build, you'll be able to complete all endgame content at ease and at a very fast pace. And without further delay, let's dive right into the build guide. Alright guys, and welcome to the build guide section of the video. First off, let's take a look at our skill tree. So, to get this build started, we want 2 points into Blade Shift, then of course 5 points into Flurry, then tree up to Improved Flurry. I don't recommend using Advanced Flurry due to the fact that you won't hit that 275 requirement that you need for Banish Lord's Talisman to proc. So 5 points, then go up to Improved Flurry. We want 4 ranks into or 3 ranks into Sturdy, then 3 ranks into Target Practice. Moving forward, we want 1 point into Dash, then tree up to Methodical Dash, so we can keep dashing everywhere and keep the build as fast as possible. We want 3 points into Weapon Mastery, 3 points into Unstable Elixirs, and 3 points into Trick Attacks. Next up, we got our Subterfuge skill tree. I recommend going to Smoke Grenade, then to Subverting Smoke Grenade. I don't recommend going Concealment, even though it has that guaranteed critical strike. This critical strike can be on Death Trap, it can be on Smoke Grenade, and it can be on your dash. So I don't recommend doing this. I recommend just getting your critical strike chance to 100. I'll show you how you could do that. We can do this by using Dark Shroud and going to countering Dark Shroud. We can also get this by trick attacks because we will be stunning when we use our Smoke Grenades. We also get guaranteed or increased critical strike chance with Precision Imbuement and with our Trap Mastery. So moving forward, this is where we want to use Cold Imbuement, because with Cold Imbuement we can freeze enemies, and of course with Alchemical Advantage our lucky hit chance goes up and our attack speed goes up. We mostly want Alchemical Advantage for the attack speed bonus. The faster we attack, the faster we can get to that 275 breakpoint for our Banish Lord's Talisman. So we want to use Cold Imbuement, then mix Cold Imbuement. We of course want 3 ranks into Frigid Finesse, 1 point into Deadly Venom, then 3 points into Alchemical Advantage. We want another 3 points into Precision Imbuement. Next up, for our ultimate skill tree, we want 3 ranks into Trap Mastery for that increased critical strike chance. We want 5 ranks into Death Trap, and then tree up to Prime Death Trap. We don't need Supreme Death Trap because it's not going to pull enemies in. We always want to be pulling enemies in for our flurries to land on them. Next up, we want 3 points into Aftermath. This will restore our energy every time we use our ultimate. We want 3 points into Second Wind, and 3 points into Haste. And for our key passive, we want Momentum. Momentum recently got buffed, so we have a 10% damage increase when we use Momentum. So we want to use that. Next up, for our Paragon board, this can go wherever you want. I've used many different aspects, or many different legendary glyphs, and socketed in many different places, and it all works out. So I can show you. So for our starting board, we want Canny, but we can also use Combat for our increased critical strike damage. So it is up to you. Right now I'm personally using Canny. This is really great for speed farming. You can try to use Combat if you want to go push pits, but I recommend just using canny. Next up, we have our no witnesses board, and we're using devious. So when we use devious, we have that crowd control effect, and they'll take increased damage from us. Also, with our cold imbuement, that is our crowd control effect. So every time we hit something, we have that 10% increased damage from our devious slot. Next up, we have our headhunter socket. We can also use our closer for instead of headhunter, but I personally like to use headhunter just because it has that 10% increase to damage to elites, plus we get 90 plus dexterity when we have this slotted in. Also, we're going to be using deadly ambush, so we have increased critical strike damage when they are affected by our trap skills. So our death trap, they will be taking increased critical strike damage. Next up, we have our fluidity slot mixed in with the Eldritch Bounty Paragon board. You can also use Bane here, or Pride here, I'm sorry. You can also use Pride here instead of fluidity, but I tend to dash around a lot, so I like to use fluidity instead of Pride. It makes it faster for me. You can, of course, do what you want with the board. This board is pretty, it lets you do what you want. So I use fluidity, you can use whatever you want. Of course, we're using Eldritch Bounty because of our imbued skill. And for our last Paragon board, we are using Cheap Shot, and for our legendary glyphs, we are using Control. We do want to slot Control here because of our crowd control damage. We don't really want to use anything else. We seriously want to use Control here. This is kind of the only board where you are locked in with Control and Cheap Shot. Next up, we'll take a look at our armor. So this armor is very endgame heavy, and as you can see, we are only using 3 ancestral legendaries. Everything else is either a mythic or a unique item. So is this very beginner friendly? Not really, but if you want to be invincible, this is what you have to use. So we want to use Shaco for our death trap to get under that 10.2 second breakpoint. So once we hit that 10.2 second breakpoint, every time we cast Flurry, we get our death trap back, so we can keep proccing Banished Lord's Talisman. Next up, we want Shroud of False Death. We want a triple hit into maximum life. That is solely because of since we're using overpower damage, we want our max life to be as high as we can possibly get it. Next up, we have Fist of Fate. You can also use Ancestral Legendary Gloves with GA ranks to Flurry. I personally don't, because I have better damage using Fist of Fate. You can most definitely try using the Ancestral Legendary with a Daze Control aspect on it. But I personally like to use Fist of Fate with that 100% lucky hit chance. I will explain why I use lucky hit chance instead of that GA attack speed. Next up, we have our Tibalt's Will. We want this for our increased maximum resource and our increase in maximum life. We do want to hit that 275 breakpoint. Half of that, we only need to get to around 207, 206 to hit that breakpoint, because the rest of our energy will come from our Paragon board. So it will shoot up to 275. I get to about like 285, 290 using 219 energy. Next up, we have Beastfall Boots. We want this, of course, for the ultimate cooldown reduction to get our death trap to under 10.2 seconds. Also, with this, our skills that consume all of our energy, so our core skill, using the Zan Quacks. So once that takes all of our energy, our damage is increased by 0.75 per energy consumed. So 275 plus that 0.75 per energy consumed, we have increased damage. Now for our bow, we want a GA into maximum life. For our tempers, we want cutthroat attack speed, and we want to double hit that chance for flurry to deal double damage, just so we can get that to 100%. It caps out at 100%, so you only need a double hit there, and we can put our rest of our points into maximum life. And for our aspect, we want encircling blades, of course, because since it's a ranged weapon, it has that 100% increase to any aspect you put on it. And we want to use that Yul Zhao rune word for 20% increased maximum life all the time because it overflows. Next up, we want Doombringer. Of course, we want the triple hit onto maximum life percentage. That's the only reason why we're using Doombringer, is so we can increase our maximum life as high as we can get. Next up, we have our sword. We can use a Shearer's Dagger. I personally like to use a legendary sword because we are not really using too many ancestral legendaries, and we do need at least 3 ancestral legendaries for this build to work because of our aspects. So for our sword, we want GA into maximum life. We want to triple hit that. And for our tempers, we want cutthroat attack speed. And here's why you want that lucky hit chance, is because we have a 40% chance to deal poison damage, which will further increase our cold imbuement damage. So it just goes back and forth. For our aspect, we want Stolen Vigor, because we are using the momentum key passive, so our cutthroat skills will deal 46% increased damage, and we will be unstoppable, which will increase our damage because of Debalt's Will. Next up, we want to Ring in the Starless Skies. We can also use another legendary ring with these GAs, but I like to use Ring of the Starless Skies because we have that 30% or 50% increase damage. Next up, we have our legendary ring. We want GA attack speed and GA overpower damage. We also want to temper on trap cooldown reduction to hit that 10.2 cooldown breakpoint, so we can spam our death traps. And we also want cutthroat attack speed as our second temper. And for our last aspect, we want breakneck bandit aspect. This will increase our flurry damage, and it has a chance to stun, which we deal 25% more damage to stun enemies. And moving forward, here's our Banished Lord's Talisman. We want a GA into maximum life, and we want a triple hit into maximum life. Of course, we want as much maximum life as we can possibly get. And of course, with the aspect, we hit that 275 breakpoint. Every single attack of ours will be overpowered. So we want 100% critical strike chance, and we want our 275 breakpoint. Then our last breakpoint we want is our death trap cooldown. So if we look at our stats, as you can see, We only really need about 50% lucky hit or critical strike chance on our gear. Everything else will be from our abilities. So our abilities will get this over 100. Start attacking. As you can see, it goes up to 100. So we have our 100% critical strike chance. So you only need around 50% critical strike chance. Everything else will be from your abilities. And that is it for the build guide section of the video. I will leave you with some background footage. If you do enjoy the build, feel free to jump on my Twitch and say how you feel about it. If you have any questions, be sure to leave it in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.